y'all must have forgot Raphael Assuncao edition, brother. And we forgot too, man. We both picked for Victor Henry. And who wouldn't? If you're a 40-year-old Raphael Assuncao, you haven't won in 5 years. You're fighting this young gun in Victor Henry. But who knew? And folks, if you see there's no odds here, it's because this was like a last-second replacement, so I didn't have the opening odds and all that stuff. Right. But who knew that Raphael Assuncao would take the same exact game plan that lost him like 4 fights in a row and then use it to beat Victor Henry? I guess who is the blame to be put on? AJ, is it Victor Henry saying that you should have studied a little bit better to understand like what he does and how to effectively like kind of dismantle that? Is it the narrative? Because oftentimes people are saying what's given Assuncao issues is that he isn't able to handle these young athletic like specimens. Victor Henry isn't really a young gun, 35-year-old. He's a beast, right? But he's not like an uber athletic guy. Who's the onus to be put on, the blame?
Man, I say Victor Henry and the Henry camp. I mean, you said it yourself, Assuncao has done the exact same thing basically his entire fight career. And if you go into a fight not knowing what a guy does and you take your age or your skill set, your prowess as being, kind of like a crutch of sorts where you're not even worried about the other guy because you're so much better than him, that's your fault. That's what comes in and happens, man. Especially a lot of the blame goes to the coaches and the camp and the fighter as well. Because if you're going in there unprepared, man, there's no one else to blame but you. And we've seen Assuncao for how many years now? This dude prove that he is one of the greatest, or not one of the greatest, but one of the top elite fighters to do it in whatever division or whatever company he's in since 2004. Like, this dude's been doing it for years and years and years. And if you don't go in prepared, ready to know that, I blame the camp and the fighter, man. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, this was Assuncao's 18th Octagon appearance, right? So dude's been doing it for a long time. This is the thing, man. The last 4 losses for Assuncao have been to very high-level competitors. Ricky Simone, Cody Garbrandt, Corey Sandhagen, Marlon Rice, right? Victor Henry, his name doesn't fall into that category. It's simply just in name value, but also in, like, skill set, right? He's not as skilled as those guys, but he's very skilled. That is not to say that he is not skilled. He's not as skilled as those guys. You look at Victor Henry, man. I was just a little confused by the game plan because the whole entire thing is stay in front of Assuncao, but just far enough to where you're able to avoid the counters and still inflict damage. Henry was I'm just going to bombard barrier into you, just like nonstop go into you. And Assuncao rocked him a couple times with the big power, which we already knew he had the power advantage. But more importantly than that, he was able to use Victor Henry's forward motion, grab onto a single, not finish it, but then convert it to offense and then just start laying punches on him every single time. And then it was even wasn't it at the end of the fight where Assuncao locked up the single leg and just held onto it just for like 45 seconds, man, and just finished out the fight that way? Either Assuncao is just majorly strong and we don't give him enough credit, or just it was just a lack of a game plan here. I give nothing but kudos to Assuncao, but this is the big talking point. It's not even the win. It's that you win. Finally, you get the monkey off your back. Fuck, I got the win. Yes, I knew I was good. I knew I was. All right, here I get the win. It might be time to call it up though, right? So when you say that in your post-fight presser, you know that this has probably been on his mind since the first, second, third, fourth loss to get the win, and now you call it quits. Or you're not calling it quits, but you start to think that way. Do you think that this is the time? Exit while you have the opportunity? Or do you say, well, I have the second most wins in UFC's bantamweight history. Let me give it another shot. What do you think?
Man, the ego, the id, the fighter, that I say you go for it. But at the same point, retire on top, man. And how many times are you gonna be like, well, I'm right there. I know 2 more wins till I get the tie or till I get the record. Man, how many times are you gonna try to do that? How many times are you gonna keep saying that year after year after year? I say you retire on top, especially in a game like this, in the fight game. You retire on top, you get your win, you leave, you end with grace, you don't go out on your shield as much as and as respectful and as admirable and as admiring or as much as we admire a fighter who does go out on their shield. I know a lot of wives and a lot of families and a lot of kids don't want to see that happen. So it's best for Assuncao, if that's what you're thinking, retire at top. Retire when you still have your mental cognition there.
That's just my point. It's just the whole, once you start thinking it, right, that bleeds into your life. That bleeds into how you train. It's similar to the saying of it's hard to go and do road work at 6 a.m. when you're sleeping in silk sheets. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little tough, right? And I'm not saying this is the same thing. Assuncao is a proven competitor. It's just, come on, man. 40 years old. That's all I'm saying. All right, brother. I mean, that was massive. And I mean, to a degree, I was just like, this is the storyline of the night almost, right? But,